Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is graphing the rational functions. So remember, we should be able to graph this without a calculator, so it's going to be a sketch. If you want to check it after we're done on the calculator, then you can. We'll only going to use the calculator to get some points to help finish out the curve. All right, so the first thing you're going to do, follow these guidelines. First thing you're going to do is find and plot the y-intercept. Find and plot the x-intercept. So remember, the y-intercept is when x is equal to 0, and x-intercept is when y is equal to 0. Find and sketch the vertical asymptotes. That's when the denominator is equal to 0. Find and sketch the horizontal asymptotes. That's those rules that we went over yesterday. Find and plot points in between and beyond the x-intercepts and the vertical asymptotes. So you can use your table of values for this. Draw smooth curves between and beyond the asymptotes. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. All right, so we're going to draw a sketch of f of x is equal to x minus 2 over x squared minus x minus 6. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is find the y-intercept. Remember, that's when x is equal to 0. So I have 0 minus 2 over 0 squared minus 0 minus 6, which comes out to be positive 1/3. So my y-intercept is 0, 1/3. Next thing is your x-intercept. That's when your y is equal to 0. 0 equals x minus 2 over x squared minus x minus 6. Cross multiply, I get 0 equals x minus 2. So x is equal to positive 2. So my x-intercept is 2, 0. Okay, now I want my vertical asymptotes. All right, so my vertical asymptotes. Okay, so your vertical asymptotes is when the denominator is equal to 0. So x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. So you factor that and you get x minus 3 times x plus 2 equals 0. So your vertical asymptotes are x equals 3 and x is equal to negative 2. Okay, so next is you're going to find your horizontal asymptotes. So that's, you're going to look at the degrees of the numerator and denominator. So that's an x to the first over an x squared. So you have 1 is less than 2. So n is less than m, sorry. So when the degree in the numerator is less than the degree in the denominator, your horizontal asymptote is y is equal to 0. All right, and the last thing is you want to get some points. All right, so I'm going to plug it into the calculator. Make sure you use parentheses around the numerator and around the denominator so that you get the right points. All right, so I'm going to make a table of values. I have an x column and a y column. All right, so I have a vertical asymptote at negative 2 and at 3. So I want the points in between. So here's negative 2. So I'm going to put it right here, negative 2. All right, so that's your vertical asymptote. And I have a vertical asymptote at 3. Okay, and so I want some points in between here. All right, so I'm going to go to negative 3 and negative 4. So that's on the beyond. And I want in between, so I'm going to use negative 1, 1, 2. But I already know 2 is my my x-intercept, so I'm going to use 2.5 in here. Okay, and we'll use 4 and 5 so that we go beyond. All right, so plug that in calculator. So we get, look in table values, negative 0.43, negative 0.83. This is my vertical asymptote, so that's why there's an error there. Negative 1 is 0.75, 1 is 0.17, 2.5. You can do that if you have the equation in your y equals, quit out, go to a clear screen, do the alpha trace, and then do y1, and then parentheses 2.5, close parentheses. This way you don't have to type it in. And you get negative 0.22. All right, I have an error. There's an asymptote there. 4 is 0.33, and 5 is 0.21. Okay, so now let's draw this. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's 5, 2, 3, 4. Here's negative 5, 2, 3, 4, negative 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so let's graph our y-intercept, which is 0, 1/3, which is, I like this color here, so I'm going to use that. All right, so there's my 0, 1/3. That's my y-intercept. I have an x-intercept at 2, 0, which is right there. Let's graph our vertical and horizontal asymptotes. Okay, so I have a vertical asymptote at 3. So draw in that dotted line. That's at 3. And I also have a vertical asymptote at negative 2. Okay, so there's my vertical asymptotes. I have a horizontal asymptote. That's the x-axis. That's y equals 0. So that's right in here. Okay, so now let's plot some other points so that I know what this graph looks like. So at negative 4, I have negative 4.3. Negative 0.43, sorry. At negative 4, I have negative 0.43. At negative 3, it's negative 0.83. And then I have, at negative 2, I have my asymptote. At negative 1, so now I'm skipping over the asymptote. So I know that this graph, see, it's getting close. It's going down. It's getting closer here. So it's going to look like this. All right, so at negative 1, I have 0.75. So this was 1/3. This was 1/3 right here. So I know it's coming down like this, and it's going down. So it's going to go down like that there. So at 1, it's 1.17 right there. So you can see it's getting closer. And then at 2.5, it was in the negative. So it's like here. So it's going to look like this. And yes, I'm crossing my horizontal asymptote because that is the only asymptote you can cross. The vertical asymptote you can't cross at all. And at 4, I have 0.33. And at 5, I have 0.21. So it's getting closer. So it's going to look like this here. All right, so that's your graph. All right, and let's try another one. So flip it over. Okay, so I have here, let's start with our y-intercept. Remember, that's when x is equal to 0. So I have 2 times 0 minus 4 over 0. So that's undefined because I have 0 in the denominator. So there is none here. So none because it's undefined. So no y-intercept. Okay, next one is we're going to find the x-intercept. That's when y is equal to 0. 0 here. 0 equals 2x minus 4 over x. Cross multiply. 0 is equal to 2x minus 4. Add 4, divide by 2. I get 2 is equal to x. So my x-intercept is 2, 0. Okay, now I need, let's see. I need my vertical asymptote. Okay, so this is number 3. Your vertical asymptote is when it's undefined. So that's when the denominator is equal to 0. So that was easy because x is equal to 0. And so remember, x equals 0 is actually my y-axis. And now I need, let's pick a different color here. 4. I need my horizontal asymptote. That is the numerators of the degree, so it would be 2x over x. So they both have a 1. So I have 1 is equal to 1. So those are my degrees in the numerator denominator. So when they're equal, it's the coefficients. So it's 2 over 1, which is just y is equal to 2. Okay, and now we need a table of values. So this is 5. So I need x and y. Okay, so I have here my asymptotes are at, I have a 0 asymptote. That's a vertical asymptote. And I have a horizontal asymptote at 2. Horizontal asymptote. All right, and so I need some number. I need a number in between, so I'm going to pick 1 for in between. And numbers to the left and numbers to the right, so I'll use 3 and 4. And I'm going to use some numbers to the left there, so I'm going to use -1. I'll use -2. And I'll use -4 here. All right, so plug it into your calculator to get some values. So at -4, y is -3. At -2, I have 4. At -1, I have 6. I have an error there, and I should have an error there because that's my asymptote. 1 is -2. 2 is an error. 3 is 0.67. And 4 is 1. All right, so let's draw our graph. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, -4. Okay, so let's plot our points. I have no y-intercept, but I have an x-intercept of 2, 0. I have a vertical asymptote at x equals 0. So that's right here. So it's not going to cross the y-axis. I have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 2. So right here. Okay, so let's plot some other points. At -4, I have 3. At 2, it's 4. So that means it's going up. And at -1, it's 6. So it's all the way up there. So it's looking like that. Okay, and then at 1, I have -2. At 3, it's 0.67. At 4 is 1. So it's going to look like this. So actually this looks like this here. Okay, so that's it, and we'll practice more in class tomorrow. Have a good night.